Alon, who would you take in a fight? Robert Kraft or Jerry Jones?
Oh, you know what? I gotta go. I gotta go. Jerry Jones. I feel like he's got some dark magic or something on his side. He's a little. He looks.
What
He
does
looks.
that mean?
I don't know. He looks scarier. He looks. Al Davis in his old age kind of looks scary.
Well, he looked like the Tales of the Crypt guy, so I see where you
look
get the dark magic from.
Yeah, so it's kind of Jerry Jones is trending in that direction. So Jerry Jones, I think, would be scarier to be alone with in a fight than Robert Kraft. I think you could outrun Robert Kraft. Jerry Jones, he played for University of Arkansas. He's probably still fighting him.
He was a Razorback, and I mean, to put it lightly, I think if you pushed over Robert Kraft, he'd fall over like the dude that Devontae Adams pushed over last week.
I mean, both are probably, with a strong gust of wind, are probably both falling over. Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be a long fight, but both 80-plus year old gentlemen, I'm not thinking it's going to last very long. But I would agree with you. I would take Jerry Jones because I think he's probably scrappy.
Yeah.
And he played football and everything. But Robert Kraft, getting married to a 47-year-old woman. So I've been asking people this week, when Tom Brady shows up to the wedding, and he's 45, and he sees Robert Kraft's bride, does he turn to her and say, like, "Hey, I'm getting divorced. Come on."
Like,
what are you doing with this 80-year-old guy? Come along with me.
I might think that Tom Brady might go, maybe I need to find a new supermodel if I can't get Giselle back. I mean, there's got to be one that's like, ooh, Tom Brady, I'll marry you.
Also, Tom Brady could have any woman in the world. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of people that probably say no. But
yeah, because there'd be a lot of women who would look at him and go, wait, you want to play football 365 days a year and not help with anything? You know what? I'm out. I'm not signing up for that.
That's fair. And also, you yell at your teammates. I don't like that. That's a negative in my book.
I don't like it when you lose to the Steelers.
Welcome, everybody, to Just Your Opinion, man. Alon Desai filling in for Steven, as Steven's is still in London. And we have a lot to say with Alon Desai about Week 6 and all the games that happened. But we got some baseball going on right now, as I think it's the top of the ninth, and the Astros have a 4-2 lead, and they're trying to close this thing out in the first game of the ALCS. Earlier today, the Phillies came back from a 4-0 deficit to win their first game. So, you liking these baseball playoffs so far, Alon?
I do. They're good. I think. I like the Padres a lot going into the season, and we talked about that last time I was on. And I still really like the Padres, and I like the Astros to beat the Yankees as well. Just overall in the series, that series it could go long, but just the Astros, I think, have the Yankees' number still.
They do. We'll see if they need any of their dark magic to defeat the Yankees, like they did some voodoo like in years past. But let's talk about football. A lot of weird games in Week 6. Raiders did not play, but we'll talk about them real quick off the top here. Devontae Adams sounds like he will not be suspended for Week 7, and I'm hoping he doesn't get suspended at all. But I did hear Ian Rappaport today. I think I can't say if they talked about this on Murphy Mac or not, but I probably talked about it with Pat McAfee, that Devontae Adams still could face some disciplinary action for pushing the cameraman. And if you're not going to do it now, then what the hell are you waiting on? So they had all of 2 weeks to figure this thing out. They're going to play the Texans this Sunday, and it sounds like he will not be disciplined this week. Could happen later on, but I don't want this to hang over every week. Either you're going to punish him or not. That's my thing. And also, I don't think a suspension is warranted. It was a weird thing, and Devontae should take full blame for it. I don't know when's the next time he's going to talk to the media, probably tomorrow. And he should just apologize again and get it over with and pay whatever fine he has to pay. Jail time, I think that's on the table, but that should be not even discussed. I think that we should just let this whole thing go.
I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but a misdemeanor.
But you just play one on a podcast.
Yeah, play one on a podcast. A misdemeanor. I mean, I think you can go to jail for that, but
we'll have to get Steve Moskowitz on sometime.
Yeah, let's get Moscow on. But I think the real crux of it is how much does Devontae make? $24 million a year? Is that about right?
That sounds. I'll bring up
It's
as I pull up his
it
contract deal list from
yeah.
Spotrac, but
It's somewhere right in that neighborhood. I know it's more than $20 million. And I think that the problem the NFL has is if they're gonna suspend him, they got to take away a game check, and that's a lot of money. I mean, we're talking $2+ million right there, or close to $2 million because 17 game schedule, and do the math on that. But that's over $1 million that they'd have to take away from him. The whole discipline might come later. That always kind of makes me think either the issue kind of boils over and dies and people make their amends, or the NFL looks at it and goes, all right, we'll do some type of disciplinary action after the season or after the Raiders season is over, whenever that is. So if they're not going to suspend him immediately and they had an opportunity to during the bye week to really make a decision there, I just don't see anything happening during the regular season. Could be wrong because the NFL works in weird ways, but it just doesn't look like it's trending that way.
no, I agree with you. And also, he makes $28 million a year.
28. Okay.
With Tyreek making the most with 30.
30. So imagine suspending one of those guys for a week and taking away a game check from one of those guys. It's just so much money.
No, I believe me, I hear you, but that's not stopped anybody before from suspending somebody.
It's true. I just feel like with the size of those contracts, the NFL PA would just look, if they wanted to have any respect as a union, they'd be up in arms about it. I mean, the appeals would be insane for that. That's my opinion, that if I was a player, that's the kind of representation I'd want to be like, you're going to let the league take away over $1 million from me? Just have me pay a fine if that's the deal.
Yeah, and we'll see where it goes. The NFL has bigger fish to fry with what's going on with Daniel Snyder and other owners talking about him and his future. We'll talk about that a little later. But yeah, dude, just let Devontae. I mean, just let it go. Like the fact that this guy's suing and he charged him, or the city of Kansas City charged him. I just think it's ridiculous. But Devontae will play this week, and I think they should take care of business against the Houston Texans. We'll talk about that game a little bit more on Sunday. Sorry, did you want to say something, Solon?
I was just going to say real quick. I mean, look at his history too. I mean, Devontae doesn't have a history of
not a bad guy whatsoever.
Yeah, of any problems with the league or anything like that. So it's just that's got to be working in his favor as well, you would think.
I agree. Let's talk about some of these Week 6 games. So the San Francisco 49ers lost to the Atlanta Falcons 28-14. And would you say, Alon, that the Atlanta Falcons are probably the sneakiest team this season, like the best, worst team? Like, they're not amazing. They're 3-3. They have some impressive victories. I thought they were going to be the worst team in football. Not the worst team in football, but one of the worst teams in football. And Marcus Mariota is playing very well. The defense is surprisingly playing well. They just traded away Deion Jones, one of their best linebackers, probably one of their, next to Grady Jarrett, one of their best defensive players. He goes to the Cleveland Browns. They have good corners in A.J. Terrell and Casey Hayward, who was with the Raiders a year ago. The way that their offense goes, it is a deep contrast to what was a year ago with Matt Ryan. They're running, read option stuff with Marcus Mariota, and they got running backs that you never heard of. Cordero Patterson is injured, but yet they're running the ball very well. They're getting the ball to Kyle Pitts and rookie Drake London. And the Niners, with just their plethora of injuries, ranging from Nick Bosa to Jimmy Ward breaking his hand, to just a lot of guys missing. Javon Kinlaw and Eric Armstead missed last week's game. Even Mooney Ward missed last week, dealing with a groin injury. Just a lot of injuries. But were you surprised by this outcome?
I was extremely surprised. I'm not surprised that the Falcons put up a fight per se, because week 2, I believe they lost to the Saints by a point. They put up a tough fight against I almost said the Patriots, against the Buccaneers. They did beat the Browns. So they have they've played really well. They haven't really been boat raced out of the building by anybody.
Sorry, not to cut you up, but yeah. I don't think they've been beat down by anybody. They had that crusher week 1 of the Saints. They came back and played the Rams very tough. They beat the Browns, They've beaten the Seahawks on the road. They beaten the Niners. They lost a close one to the Bucks, where it was terrible gritty Jarrett call. So I'm with you, Lon. They've
Yeah.
stayed in every game they played in.
But they have, and that Seahawks win, I think anybody who beats the Seahawks, like they feel better and better about themselves about those kinds of wins as the weeks go by, because the Seahawks they're actually similar to the Falcons in some ways. They're a tough team. They're not great. They're not world beaters, but they're tough. But I was very much surprised that the Niners only put up 14 points, and I know turnovers play into that, but for the Niners, I know there's always losses every year, especially on the road to maybe a team you shouldn't lose to or you don't think a team should lose to. But for the Niners to go in there and only score 14, I mean, it's not panic button time, obviously, because that team's so good, the Niners are. But to only go in and score 2 touchdowns, that's just a huge letdown. It's a letdown for Niners fans. It's got to be a letdown for their coaching staff, too, because I'm sure they thought they probably felt pretty confident going into that game.
They probably did, but at the same time, how confident do you feel when the Niners are down by 2 scores?
Oh, their comeback ability, I'm much more confident in them when they're within 7 points one way or the other, or they're slightly ahead, just because of the way they play.
This is something we would discuss this week, where do they have the offense capable of being down by 2 scores? And early on in that game, they were down 14-0 after the fumble recovery in the end zone, and they tied the game up 14 with 2 touchdown passes to Brandon Ayuk. But then they lost. They were down again by 14. And I can't think of too many times where the Niners came back from a 2-score deficit. It's happened a handful of times throughout the last few years. Obviously, last season against the Rams, Week 18, they were down 17-0 and came back in that game. So they are capable of it. But there are just times where, like last week, like once the Falcons went up 28-14, it may just be the style of offense or the limitations of Jimmy Garoppolo, but I did not see them coming back in that game.
Yeah, I think it's both. The style of offense, I think Kyle Shanahan, if he had a more prolific passer back there, just throw Matt Stafford, for instance. That's interesting because he had a quote the other day, I thought I was getting traded to the Niners.
Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up. Because Stafford could have gone to the Niners.
He could have.
If he chose to.
If he chose, yeah.
But Kyle Shanahan was in Cabo just the same time as Sean McVay was, and Andrew Whitworth was also in Cabo at the same time. Matthew Stafford says that today. He could have chosen the Niners if he really wanted to. He wanted to go to the Rams. So, whatever. Anyway.
He wanted to be in LA. Yeah, he said that. But I think part of it is the style of offense and the way the Niners want to play. I think the other part of it, too, though, is when they do get down, it's just you're not in a comfortable position with Garoppolo. He threw, over 40 passes. And if I was a coach or if I was someone on the team, I don't want Jimmy Garoppolo throwing 40-plus times. I just don't. I want him maybe throwing in that, 30 to 35 area, 27 to 35. I don't want him to throw a whole ton of passes. And I feel like when you get into a passing situation with him, and it's not just him as a quarterback, it's also the way the team's built. It's just they're not the Kansas City Chiefs who are like, okay, 2 touchdowns, you're going to spot it. We're spotting you points. Don't worry, we have Superman back there. We have Patrick Mahomes. We can come back. The Niners just aren't built that way. It doesn't mean they're a bad team. It's just the style of football they play. And credit to the Falcons for jumping all over them. And Marcus Mariota, tip of the cap to him. He's playing excellent this season.
No, yeah, I agree. And I'm just trying to pull up a stat that I found the other day. Here we go. So the 49ers, according to Josh Dubow, who covers the Raiders, actually, 49ers are 0-26 under Kyle Shanahan when trailing by more than 4 points after 3 quarters. Other teams without a win in that scenario since Shanahan arrived in San Francisco in 2017, Washington, who's 0-38, the Lions, who are 0-38 as well.
I was going to guess Lions.
and the Browns at 0-34-1.
The Browns with Baker Mayfield never had a comeback win.
No.
More than 4. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, that's just the Niners in this kind of similar way with the Baltimore Ravens. That season where both of those teams were good, they were the number 1 seeds in their respective conferences in 2019. I thought both teams would not make the Super Bowl. And I was wrong in the Niners, but I just, they are run-oriented teams that play good defense. And in order to sustain a lead and keep a lead, you got to have the lead. I mean, that's a stupid thing to say, but you have to jump on top first to play to your strengths. So the defense for the 49ers has a great pass rush. Offense is run oriented. They're not a great, well, I mean, they could be, but they're not really a pass happy offense. That's
No.
not Kyle Shanahan's thing. It was in Atlanta, but not with the 49ers.
Yeah, and he had the weapons for it in Atlanta, and they also had the style of defense that made you want to play that way as well. Get up on a team early, send your pass rushers after the quarterback.
Opportunistic.
Opportunistic, similar to maybe some of those Saints teams back when Drew Brees in the day, or even Peyton Manning on the Colts when he had Dwight Freeney and guys like that on the line. But the other thing with the Niners is, and I've said this about Harbaugh in the past, and I still say it about him today at Michigan, although they seem to have learned a bit, or he has evolved a bit. It's like if you play that type of football where it's hard-nosed defense and really running the ball with people and trying to impose your will and really control the game, control the amount of possessions, the clock, all those types of things, a lot of things have to go right for you. You have to execute all the time. The margin of error becomes very small. Whereas if let's just leave it to the college ranks, back in the day, Chip Kelly at Oregon, they had all the time in the world because their possessions could be like 2 minutes long and they'd go score a touchdown, Marcus Mariota. But, it gives that margin of error. It gives you a lot more of a gap to play with. Whereas if you play that more possession, run, defensive game like that, every possession becomes very important, and getting behind the sticks or falling behind on the scoreboard really does hurt you, especially when you're not accustomed to that and you're not necessarily prepared or built to come back from those deficits.
Yeah, and I think that the Niners are good playing with a lead, but I'm not so sure when they're behind. And it wasn't like it was a insurmountable lead. It was 14 points. They faced that and came back as well, but there are limitations with the offense, and I think let's not it's kind of an indictment on Jimmy Garoppolo a little bit. They drafted Danny Gray and have barely used him in the regular season because, quite frankly, I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo has the arm strength to throw to Danny Gray.
Yeah.
That's just the truth. Like, the best guy for Jimmy Garoppolo this season has probably been Jawan Jennings because he's a big receiver and is able to, find the balls in the not so accurate areas that Jimmy Garoppolo is throwing to. He's been great with Ayuk. Debo, the thing about Debo, do you think he is a great receiver?
No, and I think we've had this conversation before, but
I think we did during the draft because we were talking
Yeah.
about whether or not he was going to get traded in the contract and everything.
he's not a great receiver. He's a great playmaker and football player.
Exactly.
He's so dynamic, and that's what makes him great.
But when you're throwing deep passes to him like Jimmy Garoppolo is, and he can't, the pass is inaccurate,
Mhm.
and it gets tipped off of his hands and it gets intercepted, that's the type of shit that's going to happen. So, also Ernie on the chat, it brings up the fact that they had 8-minute drives in the fourth quarter when they were losing by 14. And I listened to Kyle Shanahan talk on Monday and Tuesday about the lack of urgency with the offense. And I agree with Niner fans on this one. I think that there was a lack of, urgency. When you're down by 14, it's 2 scores. Kyle kind of played it off like, oh, we'll still have a chance to score 2 times. We're not going to, freak out. But in all honesty, like, that's how most teams operate in the fourth quarter, by going no huddle all the time. So I thought that he didn't have a good game management towards the fourth quarter when his team was losing. But again, I just don't think that they are a good offense coming back from 14 points or more. We've seen them do it before, but I don't know. It's you know what? I felt the same way week 1 when Trey Lance was down 19-10. Even though it was only 9 points, I was like, ugh, I think it's a lot for him, especially in the rain. And there were other elements to deal with that day. But yeah, the Niners are built because of their defense. Like, I'm not comparing the offenses because the Niners have a better offense than this team, but the 2000 Ravens, if you got an early lead on them, like I remember the Jacksonville Jaguars throwing just deep passes on them with Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell. And if you had a big lead on them, they weren't coming back because they had no offense to speak of. But that was rare because their defense was so good. And in this instance, with the 49ers, they had so many injuries. But also, I think that the Niners just kind of shit the bed defensively as well. This was a good game plan by Arthur Smith and the Falcons. And to be honest, the Niners defense has had struggles with mobile quarterbacks like this. Not to say that Russell Wilson's been running all over the place, but week 3 loss, that kind of came into play, especially week 1 with Justin Fields making plays. That touchdown pass to Dante Pettis. Not a great football play, but just a great athletic play to be made. So I think the Niners will rebound from this. I don't think it's that big of a deal. It doesn't help that they're playing the Chiefs this upcoming week, especially when the Chiefs lose. But not that big of a deal. But also, like, this is a team that they should have probably beat, given their schedule coming up the next few weeks.
Yeah, it is. And just to kind of also talk about the fact that, after the first half, they were down by a score, and to get shut out by the Falcons in the second half, that kind of thing can't happen. You have all that time to at least go put another touchdown up, make it a 1-possession game, and just not able to get it done. And to your point about the mobile quarterback thing, the Falcons were very smart. They only passed 15 times or whatever with Mariota, and he did a great job running the ball. He had a touchdown, and they have a sneaky good running back in Tyler Algier, who was at BYU and really helped them last year. So I mean, they're a good team. It's not a bad, like, alarm should be going off loss for the Niners. It's just one of those ones where you look at it and you go, I think if you're on that team, you go, if we played those guys 10 more times, we beat them 7 out of 10 times. I mean, that's just the way the Niners are just a better team. And they let one go. They let an opportunity go is really what happened. And they got behind the 8 ball.
By the way, forgot. You beat me in our picks.
I thought I did, but just barely, right?
Just barely, by 1.
Which one was it?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of picks, but I think the big one, I mean, you picked the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. I did not. You picked the New England Patriots. I did not. I was going to go to that game next just to talk about it. But I need to do something here for my punishment. So
Derek's got to get you got to get the wings.
I don't have any wings prepared. Maybe I'll get some for Sunday. How about that?
Yeah. Do your thing. Okay. I'm taking a hold of you to it.
I'm a man of my word.
Yeah, I'll text you for live video of wing eating.
There you go. Well, I'll get you on Sunday because I think that Steven is still going to be jet lagged on Sunday. So we'll do this again on Sunday if you're down for that.
I am, and I'm going to the Raider game on Sunday too. So
sweet. So we'll make it quick and fast for you. Yeah. So just talking about some of the games on Sunday. You picked the Patriots. And I thought that the Browns would come back from that terrible loss that they had to the Chargers where the Chargers are a good team, maybe. But Jacoby Brissett throwing a bad pick in the end zone there when you're up by 2. Questionable play calls by Brandon Staley on the flip side, but in the end they survive. Regardless, Browns lose last week, and they come back to play Bailey Zappi and the New England Patriots this past week.
Bailey Zappi.
Dude, I'll tell you, man. Bailey Zappi is actually pretty damn good. Just watching him in the 3 games he's played, he came in for relief when Brian Hoyer got concussed against the Green Bay Packers and took that team to overtime. Then the Patriots, thanks to their defense, shut out the Lions, but Bailey Zappi still had a pretty good game. And then, dude, his stat line against the Cleveland Browns, Bailey Zappi went 24 of 34 for 309 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Gotta love that. And
for the same people that were giving Matt Patricia so much shit at the beginning of the season, like, oh, this buffoon from the Lions, he's coming back because with his tail between his legs, coming back to his daddy and Belichick, and they're going to make him offensive coordinator. He's never coached offense before. These are all justified takes, I guess you could say. But now you have to give the man his due for having a third-string rookie quarterback go 2-0 and putting up points. They scored 38 points against the Cleveland Browns. I don't know what's up with the Cleveland Browns defense. I thought they'd be a lot better, especially with Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. But Bailey Zappi is playing pretty damn good football. And knowing how Belichick has operated, especially 20 years ago when he had Drew Bledsoe and went to Tom Brady, I would not be the least bit surprised if Brady Zappi, and yes, I said Brady Zappi, starts to play over Mac Jones.
He's definitely making a conversation, and the Patriots have no issues with that. It doesn't matter where you're drafted. You don't. No one has permanent residency over a spot unless you produce. And Bailey Zappi, like, I don't want to say they're making it easy for him because it's not easy to be a rookie quarterback in the NFL, third stringer. All of a sudden, you go 2-0. But I mean, they're throwing the ball deep. He's making throws over the middle. They're doing the right things with him. He's for the most part able to stay upright. Just that stat line, what you said, 24 completions for over 300 yards. I mean, he's not Joe Namath, but that's like a Joe Namath-esque stat line. He only completed 24. That's not a ton of passes. So, I mean, do the math there. The average depth, it's well over 10 yards on all those completions. So, I mean, look, if that's how the Patriots are going to run their offense, then they're going to be a successful team, whether it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi. I think one of the other fascinating things is it was, the Patriots were good last year, right? They have a chance to be way better this year, depending on health holds up and things like that. But, they're not like it's not far-fetched that they can't win the AFC East, even though the Bills are so good. But they could give the Bills a run for their money.
Along with the Jets and Dolphins, maybe.
Along with the Jets and I do think
I'm not ready to say all that yet, though.
I do think I'm not either, but I'm just saying it's not out of the realm of possibility with how well they're coached and just you can't count Belichick out. The way they're playing right now, they're definitely on track to be in contention for that extra playoff spot. I don't think that's going out on a limb.
No, I don't think that's crazy at all. In fact, I think that before the season started, I thought like their chances a lot better than the Dolphins. The Dolphins are going through a weird time right now, and we kind of expected that. But yeah, dude, Bailey Zappi, man. And by the way, like, yeah, are you with me on the Matt Patricia thing? Like, people were so quick to criticize him before the season, and now that he's playing well, I haven't heard anything from anybody.
I haven't either. I mean, he had to get that stink off of him from Detroit, and that takes a lot of winning and good results to get rid of that. But yeah, I mean, okay, a guy's never coached that side of the ball before, or at least professionally hasn't, and then you put him in command there. Look, these guys are experts. Most of them, the good ones, probably can coach both sides of the ball. So is it surprising? Yeah, I'm actually very surprised. But at the same time, like, everybody has to eat their words about it. At least right now they do. They can't just say, oh, well, it'll fall apart eventually. You can't be like Max Kellerman on First Take saying, well, Brady's going to fall off. Brady's going to fall off. and then it never happens. And it's just like, oh, you're just going to.
Just hoping your take comes true.
You're just hoping your take comes true. So, look, the Patriots are good. And Bailey Zappi, man, if he ends up being like you said, Brady Zappi, he's the third string guy who comes up and, hey, he's playing so well, Max. Sorry, buddy. It's Zappi's job to lose. I mean, that could happen.
By the way, I don't mean this is an insult or anything, but with your beard and everything, you kind of got like a Matt Patricia thing going on.
I do. And I always tell people you can tell how lazy I've been by how long my beard is getting. So, yeah, the longer the beard is, generally the lazier I've been. I've probably just been doing the basics.
I follow. I do the same thing, man. Sometimes it's really, natty.
And I'm like, gross. I gotta do something about this. But no, Matt Patricia, quite the redemption arc. So maybe, hey, you know what? Maybe he's the new offensive whiz kid too. Maybe he's the next Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. But I mean, to also point out who I look like. Steven thinks I look like Brian Daboll.
No, come on. No. That's wrong.
Steven just thinks I look like every bald guy now.
Yeah, that's what happens when you turn into a bald guy. You're every bald guy. And depending on exactly how good a shape you're in, you're in one of two camps, like buff bald guy or maybe on the fat bald guys.
Well, one bald guy I definitely don't look like. Robert Saleh. He's got the
that
Jets.
Jacked.
Yeah. Jets going 4-3 on the season. Oh no, actually they're 4-2. 3 straight wins, and they go into Lambeau and put a beat down on the Packers. And do you think this is more of how potentially good the Jets are, or how bad the Packers are this season?
I think it's more about how good the Jets are, because I don't think the Packers are as good as they have been in years past. That's obvious, but this talks more about the Jets for me because the Jets have been putrid for so long. And the fact that they're able to go to Lambeau and, put it on the Packers, without even really, I mean, they ran the hell out of the ball. That's what they did, and they played
Yeah.
solid defense. So, I mean, that's coaching right there. That's Saleh having that team ready to go. And it's kind of funny when he got there, people are like, oh, okay, like, we'll see what we get out of Robert Saleh. But that team's bought in. That team's not doesn't matter how the season ends. I don't think they're going to check out. Not on him. They're very competitive.
They are competitive, and there's rumors of whether or not Woody Johnson was going to entertain the idea of going through another losing season. He didn't hire Robert Saleh. He was, working with Trump the last couple of years, so now he's back as owner of the Jets. And they're playing great football, especially Brees Hall. The way they run the ball, their defense has been playing, pretty good football as well. I do think there is something wrong with the Packers right now, obviously. And Rodgers can make all the faces and go to Pat McAfee and complain about the lack of weapons he has. And that's true to some degree. But at the same time, why don't they run the damn ball? To take the words from Richard Sherman. Like a week ago, they were up big against the New York Giants in London and lost that lead. But they didn't maintain it by running the football. I think they have two great backs in Aaron Jones, who is their Swiss Army knife. He does a bunch of stuff for them, receiving and rushing. And then their bell cow in A.J. Dillon. And A.J. Dillon gets 10 carries for 41 yards, and Aaron Jones gets 9 carries for 19 yards. I just think that they get down on themselves when they don't have a lead and they don't want to run the football. And they need to find ways to get the ball into Aaron Jones' hands a little bit more. I don't know what his catches were. Just, 3 catches for 25 yards.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I think they need to be more of a run-oriented offense. And, of course, when you have Aaron Rodgers, you want to throw the football. But I think they're screwing themselves. Defensively, they're not playing great. I thought they would have a better defense this season than in years past with the additions they made from Georgia with the rookies. But those guys aren't playing well right now. The whole defense isn't playing well right now. So, I still think they have a shot to win that division, even though Minnesota's playing very good football. But, this is it can't be all just Davante Adams leaving.
No.
It's a lot. They didn't really do a good job upgrading the wide receiver position, but that's not the reason why they're losing football games. They've been very inconsistent in their offense and defense, and we'll see how they, But then again, a lot of teams are playing poorly right now. Like so many NFC teams are 3-3, and there really is only a handful of good teams right now in the NFL.
Yeah, no. There's a lot of teams playing poorly or not up to their standards or not up to expectations. The Packers are definitely one of them. I think everybody thought, we all thought that there was going to be some steps back with the offense because of no Davante Adams. But Aaron Rodgers has done it in the past without, super, super talented receivers or that marquee guy. But, right now he's relying on Lazard and Romeo Doubs, who's a great player. And I think he's going to be a very good player. And he has Amari Rodgers as well. But you're right, Derek, about running the football. I kind of think about it back to when the Packers were like super elite, super scary when they won their Super Bowl. They ran the ball. They ran the ball effectively, even with Fat Eddie Lacy. And like the fact that they're not committed to running the ball right now, it's a little bit alarming because I think Dillon is a very good back, and I think Jones is a good back too. Like you said, Swiss Army knife. I also don't think there have been some people saying, well, Rodgers is getting up there now. I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's more of an issue of what their philosophy is right now. And I think not finishing that game against the Giants really did carry over to this game. And they probably thought, we're at Lambeau. It's our home territory. We're not going to lose. We don't lose here, especially don't lose here to the Jets. And they ended up laying another egg. So they have, I don't want to say soul searching. They don't have soul searching to do, but they just need to get right. They're like so many of the other teams, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need to get right. There's teams that we expected to be up here, the Rams being one of them. And because the days of the super crazy Super Bowl hangover are kind of over, at least for now, but we're seeing glimpses of that once again with the Rams. So, it's one of those situations where it's Aaron Rodgers is going to have to figure out exactly which receivers he can trust in the long term, but more importantly, their coaching staff is going to have to figure out a way to get their running backs more involved to take pressure off the defense as well, because the defense has not been playing great. You don't want them on the field for over half the game.
No, and what's funny is because after they lost to the Giants, I think Jair Alexander said like, "Well, if we lose the next game, then we'll start to worry." And I think Aaron Rodgers like shut that down immediately and said like, "Let's not even put it in the conversation that we're thinking about losing next week." And sure enough, they did. Yeah. So now it's a problem, I guess, for Jair Alexander. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a case with a lot of teams right now. Like, what do you make for the lack of offense in the NFL right now? Because I feel like the only two good offenses in football right now are the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, and maybe the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're a very run-oriented team as well. Their passing game has, shown glimpses at times with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. They haven't exploded for a ton of points yet, but I think that those are the only probably three consistent teams that score week in and week out.
You could probably kind of a backdoor option there, maybe even the Jaguars. They're a team that seems to be putting up a decent amount of points, but I'm not sure. I'm honestly not sure. I mean, I know there's been a big focus for so many of the teams defensively. There's been a lot of switching of really good defenders to other teams, stuff like that. But I don't know. It's just a lot of offenses look clunky right now. The Rams don't look the way they should. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers don't look the way they should. To an extent, the Niners, at least this week, don't look the way they should. Not that they're a score 40-plus on you kind of offense, but they'll hang 30 on you, around 30, and make it look, it'll be real physical. So I don't really know what to attribute it to. Probably the scapegoat is quarterback play. You can just look at quarterback play and just go, it's just not been as good. Rodgers hasn't been as great as he has in years past, specifically for the Packers. But I mean, it's more than that. I think the defenses are just playing really well right now. And usually it's the opposite. Usually the defenses come along later sometimes in the year, and sometimes every year it's different.
Well, do you think it's more good defensive football or just bad football in general?
I would like to say that it's bad football in general, but I know it's not. I think logically it has to be good defensive football because of all the rules and how slanted they are for the offense. So if these offenses can't get it done with the amount of leeway and the benefit of the doubt that they constantly get, then you have to look at the defense and just go, they're playing their tails off.
I'm not so sure. I'm not saying that football is a bad product right now.
It's not.
It's not. But at the same time, I don't think it's very, very crisp this season. I will admit that. There's only a handful of games I've watched, including the Buffalo Bills and Chiefs this past weekend, which we'll discuss more later, that I saw really good play all around. But I kind of equate it to the lack of practice in training camp, maybe even preseason. But then again, there's seasons where no one plays preseason and everyone does fine. Like I go back to the 2011 season where there was a lockout and we had no OTAs, nothing in the off season. Free agency started in June, I want to say, or July even. And there was no Hall of Fame game, but we did play preseason games. And despite the fact that there was such a shortened offseason, you had 3 or 4 of the greatest quarterback seasons of all time in Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Matthew Stafford, all throwing for, I think, 5,000 yards and 40-plus touchdown passes. So it's just weird, year in and year out, where sometimes, people have the argument if you don't need preseason, everyone's playing so great. And then, people play like shit and you're like, well, we do need preseason. It's just weird this season. I don't know what to make of it. I equate the poor play of the Buccaneers and Rams to their offensive lines. The plethora of injuries to both squads, honestly. Joe Noteboom's out for the season for the Rams. You had a couple of guys for the Buccaneers.
I think the change at the center position for the Bucs has been detrimental to their offense big time.
Probably.
Yeah.
So I think that is the cause of their offense. And also, I know that it's Tom Brady and Byron Leftwich, but I think mainly why that offense is not clicking right now is because they miss Bruce Arians a little bit, probably. And also their receivers are getting a little older. I think Mike Evans is still a great player. So is Chris Godwin. Julio Jones, when they made that move initially, I thought, okay, let's see if he, plays. And right now he hasn't. He's only played, I think, 2 games this season. So to get on the Buccaneers real quick, they lost 20-18 to the Tampa Bay they lost 20-18 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kenny Pickett was playing fine until he got concussed, and then Mitch Trubisky had to come in and play. But yeah, it's not a bad loss either. I think, at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're still a pretty good defense. But yeah, there's a lot of just very poor play for offensive football right now, with the exception of a few teams, like I said before. But what'd you make of Tom Brady? And this is not a big deal to me, but what'd you make of Tom Brady yelling at his offensive line during the game?
Didn't bother me. I mean, he had every right to do so, and he's the ultimate leader. There's no doubt about that. And if he felt that that was the right thing to do, I mean, who's going to really question him? Uh, the Buccaneers played very poorly. I almost want to give that win to Mike Tomlin. He seems to be good for one or two of those every year, where it's like, that's a Mike Tomlin win. Get a game that on paper you shouldn't win, and you pull it out by a couple of points, and you really stop the other team trying to do what they want to do. But yeah, I mean, that video went everywhere, and I saw it happen live on TV, and I was like, yeah, well, Brady's giving them hell, and rightfully so. They're not doing the job that he expects them to do, because he's not there just to go to the playoffs again. He's there just for one reason: to win another championship, or at least to make it to a championship game and play for a Super Bowl. That's it. And if he has to dole out those lessons right now to those guys, some of those newer guys, then, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I think people kind of get up in arms when they see anything these days. Tom Brady's always done that. He's going to fire up his team. I will say this, though. When you are, and I'm sure no one else feels this way as far as his teammates, because he is Tom Brady and he is who he is. But when you take off every Wednesday, and, I understand that if that rubs guys the wrong way, but I've also heard that that's not the case every week. Like this week, I think Todd Bowles said that, he practiced. So I think we're also making too much of his off the field stuff with his family. Like that just needs to go away. Just focus on the football aspect of his life right now, as far as us as media members. But yeah, I have no problem with Tom Brady. Like remember Peyton Manning doing that. I remember
Philip
Dan
Rivers.
Marino. Yep, Philip Rivers. Every quarterback has to lead, and you don't have to be an asshole, but at the same time, like you got to be a leader, and sometimes that's required. Just other games going around week 6. What do you think of the Giants beating the Baltimore Ravens?
I watched that whole game from start to finish.
Yeah, what do you think?
I thought the Ravens gave that game away. I'm not disrespecting the Giants. They're 5-1 for a reason. I mean, they've done things that a lot of people didn't think they would, but I really thought the Ravens gave that away. And maybe in particular, Lamar Jackson gave that game away. He was not his
2 costly turnovers in the later portion of fourth quarter.
He wasn't his usual self. I mean, he ran, like 10 yards per carry. That was good, but just his passing looked really off, and it seemed like the only guy he was in sync with all day was Mark Andrews, although that's nothing new. Sometimes Mark Andrews is the only guy that he's in sync with. It usually just works out for them. This time it didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you made the case that the last 2 opponents that the Giants have faced have given the game away to the Giants in the Green Bay Packers and the Baltimore Ravens. But there is something there. I think they have a good defense. I think they're just coached very well. And you look at their receivers right now, they're not playing with Kadarius Toney. And, I mean, Kenny Golladay is not even heard of in this offense right now. He doesn't even play when he's healthy even. Saquon's doing a great job running the ball for the Giants, but Brian Dable is just able to scheme it up. And I think that he's just a great leader of men. It's better than anybody they've had in recent years, from Joe Judge to who's the dude? Who's the guy after Tom Coughlin? Dude with the mustache.
Oh God.
OC.
Yeah.
Ben McAdoo. Ben McAdoo.
McAdoo. Yep.
They just have a good leader of men right now. Also, like Pat Shurmur was there for a little while too. Just like they finally have a good. Like Brian Dable has been respected in this league for a long time. Obviously, coached with Belichick and Saban, and made Josh Allen the player that he is today. So, I think the Giants are going to. I like to see the Giants, what they do when Daniel Jones has to win them a game. And they've shown they've been capable of coming back in a game. Obviously, they were down 17-3 against the Green Bay Packers 2 weeks ago, and they were down against the Baltimore Ravens. But I want to see where, I mean, Brian Daboll schemed it up, but like I want to see where Daniel Jones has to take a game over. If you understand what I'm saying.
I do. Watching him play, so I'm a fan of Daniel Jones. I've always kind of liked him. I always thought he could be a really good player. Definitely looks like he's in command of that offense. It's not a question of him not knowing what to do. I mean, you see him go up there and call out protections the right way, and he's trying to do the right things and be a leader out there, be the coach on the field. But yeah, there are still times where he misses throws. I mean, every quarterback misses throws, but there's things you're like, yeah, Daniel been in the league for quite 4 or 5 years now almost, and you're still missing some of these easy reads, and he's still taking huge hits, and I think that's an issue. But yeah, I don't want to take anything away from the Giants, but I really do think that the Packers really did give that game away, and the Ravens. You know what, the Ravens? You could say they gave the game away, like I said, but really they're a victim of kind of what the Niners are sometimes, where sometimes when you play that style of football, it doesn't go your way just because your margin for error is not that big. And as much as I like Lamar Jackson, sometimes you don't want him throwing the ball in the air because sometimes he's on and sometimes he's just off. But
Yeah.
I do agree with you. Brian Daboll is a great leader of men. He's a very good coach, and he's got that team going in the right direction. I didn't have the Giants 5-1. I thought they'd be better, but I did 5-1. I didn't have that at all. I definitely, sure as hell, didn't have them beating the Green Bay Packers or the Baltimore Ravens.
And then beating the Tennessee Titans week 1. They've been very impressive this season. Just to run through some of the scores from week 6, Colts finally explode offensively, come back in that game against the Jaguars. Matt Ryan throws 3 touchdown passes. Great one to Alec Pierce, the rookie, in the end to win that game 34-27. Just a bad string of luck for the Miami Dolphins lately with their quarterback troubles. Skylar Thompson starts that game, and then he gets hurt, and then Teddy Bridgewater has to come in. And I'm not saying Tua is the best quarterback in the world, but they'd be a lot better with him right now. And I think he's going to play this weekend against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Minnesota Vikings are actually a pretty good team. I thought they may have won this game if Tua even plays. So I've been impressed with what Kevin O'Connell's been doing with the Minnesota Vikings. And I think that just the Miami Dolphins are going through a rough patch here. So Vikings get the win there, 24-16. Joe Burrow goes back to the Bayou with his buddy Jamar Chase and throws 3 touchdown passes, including the game winner against the Saints. We'll see them tomorrow against the New Orleans Saints. And I do need your pick for that one, Alon, as I'll bring that up a little later. And then, the Rams rebound against the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers are just showcasing their players now for who could be traded. Matthew Stafford struggled a little bit, but in the end, they get the win as they should. Seahawks beat down the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are just a mess right now. They trade Robbie Anderson. They trade for Robbie Anderson after he throws a fit on the sideline in L.A. against the Rams. So he fills in for Marquise Brown, who will be gone for a good deal of time. But DeAndre Hopkins comes back tomorrow after he fulfills his suspension. And then we get to this game. The game of the year so far, in my opinion. Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs. A year ago, that was the fantastic playoff game. Of course, Mahomes setting up a field goal with 13 seconds left, and that game goes to overtime, and they change the playoff overtime rules because of it. And then we get the rematch in the regular season. And the whole reason that the Buffalo Bills signed Von Miller to a ridiculous contract, not for him, but if you look at the terms and everything, it's quite lengthy and a lot for a guy of his age. But regardless, he deserves it. 2-time Super Bowl winner. Von Miller was brought to Buffalo to sack Patrick Mahomes with 13 seconds left in a football game, so he never does that again. And this game was fun. A little sloppy at times from the Buffalo Bills. Isaiah McKenzie having a few drops and fumbles here or there. Patrick Mahomes making decisions that I've never seen him make before. That pick in the end zone and that pick at the end of the game too. But Josh Allen, to me, has proven to be the MVP, and Von Miller does make the difference, forcing the pressure on Patrick Mahomes at the end of the game, forcing the interception. I just think the Bills are the best team of football. They managed to score at the end of the game, the touchdown pass to Dawson Knox. Yeah, and the hurdle Josh Allen had over the Chiefs defenders. Just a great performance by the Bills. We just got to see if they're able to do it again in the postseason. And you think with this win, they may be able to have the tie-breaking scenario against the Chiefs if they can host a playoff game in Buffalo, Orchard Park, come playoff time. But I was thoroughly impressed with the Buffalo Bills win over the Kansas City Chiefs.
I agree with you. There's no question about it. They're the best team right now in the NFL. And Kansas City is a very good team, but I don't particularly think it's that close right now. I just think Buffalo is better than everybody else. Josh Allen, I mean, he didn't play flawless, but took care of the ball. He was still aggressive. And Von Miller, to have 2 sacks and both of them be impactful. And, every year Mahomes is going to have a game where he turns the ball over more than he would like. Every quarterback does, but Mahomes generally doesn't do it. I just think that physical style and the good pass rush that Buffalo has really, they were able to do some things, and they were able to make sure that, Travis Kelce, okay, he went for over 100 yards, but he didn't hurt them in the end zone, and they did a good job of, just kind of shutting down the run game too, which is really important. The run game gets lost a lot for the Chiefs, but it is important for them because it does take pressure off of Mahomes and his receiving core. I think Matt Milano gets a lot of credit for the Bills. That guy plays solid every single week, and that defense is it's really good. And Allen it's amazing. I didn't know what the ceiling on him was. I mean, I knew it was high, but it seems like he's just getting better and better every single game. I never really see a serious regression out of him, and it seems like a lot of teams, get intimidated by playing the Chiefs, and especially teams that people go, hey, this is a team that could really give them problems in the future. And it puts a lot of weight on that quarterback's shoulder. But Allen's the kind of guy where I don't really think it bothers him. He feels the pressure and he just uses it to fuel himself. And I think the tough physical guy that he is really helps them a lot too against the Chiefs. And, it's 2 different styles of team. I'm not saying the Chiefs don't play hard-nosed football, but it's Patrick Mahomes doing the miraculous and making really beautiful plays, and the Bills do it a little differently. They do it a little more old school, if you will, even though they do air the ball out a lot. It's very much different. So the Bills are a monster right now, and I don't know who's going to topple them. I think the Chiefs in the AFC, that's the best shot because the Chiefs can score 40 on you at any given moment. But, game of the year so far, and shout out to Tony Romo because I think he predicted the score like in the first quarter after the first drive.
He called it 24-20.
He said this feels like a 24-20 kind of game, and it was. So that is the highest quality football game I think we've seen all season.
I agree, and usually you have Tony Romo predicting plays, and then he just nailed the score there. So good on him. I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if either of these teams end up with Christian McCaffrey in a couple of weeks. We have the trade deadline on November 1st. The Buffalo Bills are running well with Devin Singletary, but one of their biggest flaws come later in the season is running in the snow. Not saying that Christian McCaffrey is capable of that. I'm sure he is. And I can see the Chiefs making a play for him too, which is going to take a lot. We saw the report that Peter Schrager said that the Carolina Panthers are interested in 3 first-round picks or multiple first-round picks for Christian McCaffrey.
They ain't getting that.
That's not happening. That's them throwing a thing out there for all of the world to hear, and then the NFL to come back and be like, nice try.
And here's 0 first-round picks.
but I will say this. I think the best time to move Christian McCaffrey would to be before the trade deadline, as opposed to the offseason, where his need is much higher now for teams that are in the hunt. Mm-hmm. Running backs are kind of an afterthought when it comes to the offseason. And Christian McCaffrey's still a great player, but he has been injured. And it's more of a passing league these days, but he's a great receiver. So I think that he would go for more value now during the season than he would in the offseason, in my opinion. I just don't know if it'll get done in the next 2 weeks here. You hear a lot of rumors with Odell and other guys that are up for grabs right now, and Odell will sign with somebody. I'm assuming it's going to be the Rams. But we'll see what happens with Christian McCaffrey. I get to see both of these teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, in the end coming up with him?
I think he helps both teams. I actually think he helps the Chiefs. Let's see if I can word this correctly. If the Chiefs are obsessed about getting better than the Bills or eclipsing the Bills, once being better, being the dominant team, I think he helps the Chiefs get a lot closer to the Bills than he does expand the gap that there is right now between the Bills and the Chiefs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
It's because of the way Mahomes plays, and I think McCaffrey is also a very creative player. He could always be that dynamic safety valve for Mahomes, and I could just see that taking their offense to another level. I mean, those broken plays that happen for the Chiefs so often, and if he has a guy like McCaffrey to just dish it off to, a little 5-yard pitch turns into a 15-yard gain more often than not. So, and I think what the Bills need is more of, and not saying that McCaffrey can't do this, but they need more of an in between the tackles kind of presence for come playoff time, especially if they host up in Buffalo.
I agree. Just closing out with the rest of the games this week. Eagles beat the Cowboys, and Cooper Rush finally showed a little bit of rust, throwing 3 interceptions. But also the Eagles have a great secondary, probably the best in football. So they go to 6-0, and I'm not taking anything away from Cooper Rush, but kind of showed why Dak Prescott is going to get that job back when he's healthy by next week. So they win that game, and then Monday night we had the Broncos and Chargers game, and that was just kind of not great. Went to overtime. What'd you make of Brandon Staley? Did you see this play where he had all 3 timeouts? It was a 3rd and 1, didn't get it, didn't convert, I should say. So then it turns into a 4th and 1, and instead of going for it like Brandon Staley has done in the past, he milks the clock all the way down to with 1 second left, calls timeout, throws a Hail Mary. I don't know how I feel about that. You had all 3 timeouts. You could have run the ball on 3rd and 1 and then try to do something on 4th and 1. I understand if you don't get it, then you're setting up the Broncos to have great field position and beat you. But I don't know if I like that call. In the end, they win with the muff punt and everything, but I don't know if I like the way that Brandon Staley managed that game.
So I was watching that game with a buddy of mine, and we were talking, and it's kind of a running joke about what decisions Brandon Staley's going to make and which ones he isn't going to make, kind of deal. Like, does he play it safe? Well, does he risky? Yeah. Go.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying, like, it was a battle. It was the battle of probably the 2 worst clock managers or game managers in all of football between Brandon Staley and Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah, it's awful, and I think Brandon Staley's thing this year is go for it sometimes, but don't do the ones that everybody's gonna try to tar and feather you for. Don't get pilloried over the decision. You want to be aggressive because you're an aggressive guy. You want to go for it every 4th down, but some of the obvious ones don't do that. But then he's in a situation like that, and you're like, this is prime opportunity for you, buddy. And I don't get it. When you have 3 timeouts in the pocket, like, at least use 1. I was watching that game and I was just like, so we were talking about clunky offenses, and at times the Chargers are very clunky. I don't think there's an offense like more not in tune, than the Broncos. But to watch Brandon Staley do that kind of thing, I'm like, I'm not really surprised, but he wins, so it ends up being a footnote. It's not a big deal. The problem is if those calls come back to bite him, it's all, oh, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why didn't you do this? So in the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, but it is kind of, I don't know. He's walking a very fine line of like, hey, I'm still Brandon Staley, but I don't want to get crucified by the media. So I don't know. Maybe that's in his head. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the Chargers decide to do with him come the end of the season. If they make the playoffs, then it'll be hard to do. But if they also feel like they could do more with a better coach, like, the Warriors were so bad, and then they got good with Mark Jackson. But in the end, Joe Lacob and Bob Myers were still like, we could be better.
Yeah.
So I wonder what they will do if Brandon Staley is not doing enough come this season. So Sean Payton, but as you know, I think we talked about it last podcast, the Spanoses are cheap.
Yeah, they are.
So we'll see if they give him his money, because Sean Payton wants to get paid, and I think the Dallas Cowboys would be willing to pay him if Mike McCarthy doesn't do the job that they're asking of him to do. Speaking of the Cowboys, just real quick today, we talked about it earlier. All these fights at the owners' meetings. So we talked about Kraft and Jerry Jones going after it. Jim Irsay, after Al Michaels a week ago called out Daniel Snyder, didn't really call him out, but just gave his feeling about what the future could hold for Daniel Snyder. And this is a week removed from the article that came out of Seth Wickersham saying that, you know, Daniel Snyder has dirt on the whole league, which makes me believe that he's the one that released the John Gruden emails. When not, and I'm not, what
No, no,
what
no. Yeah,
what Gruden did on the emails is bad, but the fact that they came out, I think this is the doing of Daniel Snyder because he had access to these emails because Bruce Allen was the president of the Washington then Redskins, and now, like I think Tom Tolbert put it perfectly on the show this week, where he said it was kind of like a deal, like a drug dealer does, where the FBI has got him. And they're like, okay,
Mm.
let me give you some little things here, so you get off my back, like you make a deal with me. So in order for the NFL to get off of Daniel Snyder's butt, he releases the stuff about John Gruden. Regardless, Daniel Snyder says this supposedly that he has dirt on every NFL owner, and that's why even on Goodell, and that's why he hasn't been taken out of his, seat as the owner of the Washington Commanders. And, he says like the NFL is run like the mafia, all this stuff. And then Jim Irsay during the owner meetings said today that maybe, in time, the other owners will come together and we will make a decision to remove him. And that is, the first step of one owner saying something and then the rest of them being like, oh, I know one thing: the owners don't like people going against them. So if one guy goes against them, then they all want you out. And it's not as simple. Like once you start losing sponsors, that's why the Suns owner sold his team. I forget his name; it escapes me at the moment.
but I think, yeah.
But the reason why he sold the team was because the team was going to lose sponsorship. It wasn't like any like, oh, I realized I've done a bad thing. I got to give the team away. It's money. It's always money. So, but also if you are ganged up on by the other owners, then maybe you're forced to sell. I think that Daniel Snyder has been given a pass because none of this. I mean, all this stuff is accusations, and unfortunately, none of it is true to the full extent. Sarver, thank you, Ernie Chavez. Robert Sarver. Had his the Suns taken away from him. But for Daniel Snyder to lose the Commanders, he's got to lose some more sponsorships, which he's gone with the flow of renaming the team, or the owner's got to speak up and say this guy needs to go. So we'll see where this goes in the time being.
It was a running joke for a long time. Most people, Dan Snyder must have dirt on everybody. He's got to have naked pictures of Goodell and all kinds of garbage. With the fact that he's been able to stay in ownership for so long, but when he comes, how slimy do you have to be to come out and say, "Hey, get that message out there that I have dirt on everybody else, and this is the way it runs." And those other 31 teams are your partners. And like you said, if you burn one of them and you start ruffling feathers like that, they want you out of the club because at the end of the day, it's a money-making organization. The NFL is about making money. I mean, for us, it's about watching football, but for them, it's about making money. And Dan Snyder compromises the ability of the league to do that. And, I wouldn't be surprised if it was him who leaked it. He owned one of the servers that housed those emails, so he had access to them. But for someone to say that and to let that be known, I'm not in the least bit surprised that the other owners are saying, oh, no, that's not going to happen. And you think like that's going to intimidate us. It's not, because you have so little credibility already. Whether the accusations are true or not, we don't really care. Your credibility is very low. So if that's the game you're going to play, you're going to be out of here before you know it. And not to mention his stewardship of the now Commanders has been pretty awful.
Yeah. No.
Their stadium situation's terrible. They price gouge their fans. You had the situation last year where Jalen Hurts almost died with the stadium falling on him. Like, it's not been good. So if Daniel Snyder gets forced, I'm never in favor of people being forced to sell their teams, but as a rule. Now, if there's legitimate reasons for it, obviously, like Donald Sterling, that's pretty obvious. But Daniel Snyder, like, good riddance, dude. Take a hike. Like, you're not helping the league. That's pretty harsh, but it's true.
No, it is true, 100%. So yeah, that's the stuff going on with football right now, as far as on the field and off the field, and we'll see what happens with Daniel Snyder and all of the ongoing investigations with that guy. But the
That guy.
Warriors, the Warriors opened up their season yesterday, ring night and everything, and we were wondering what was going to happen with Draymond Green and the situation with the fight, or more of the punch. Really, it wasn't a fight. It was
The assault.
yeah, it was one-sided. And it was kind of a weird day yesterday. So, well, first off, this was the first time I've been back in the Bay Area since the Warriors moved to Chase Center. They opened up a season, and to me, it was like, oh yeah, yeah, the Warriors are back. I'm gonna go over to Oracle tomorrow, hop on BART, and get over there. I was like, God damn, nope, not anymore. Such a pain in the ass to get over to Chase Center. So I didn't do that. Watched the game at the house. But earlier in the day, Draymond Green released a self-produced, I guess, through his company, little mini documentary about the days leading up to the season, and of course, it encompassed his altercation with Jordan Poole. And did you see this at all, Alon?
I didn't watch it. I saw it come out, and I was like, I don't care for this. Sorry.
Just to sum it up for anybody that hadn't seen it, it's him face to face, very intense documentary, camera angles, mood music, the B-roll, very like Man in the Arena, Tom Brady bullshit, where the waves are crashing down and all that stuff. So Draymond Green kind of says that he doesn't really, he didn't think too much of the fight after the fact, and then when the video came out, he started to think about it more. Thank you, Ernie. Yeah, it was a collaboration between Green 23 and Omaha Productions, Peyton Manning's company.
Well, they're friends, or they're buddies at least somehow. Him and
Are they really?
Manning, right? Yeah, I mean they seem to
didn't
get
even know.
along. Yeah.
Regardless, it was just a weird kind of self-serving thing where he was kind of the end like, hey, if you could forgive yourself, then what's the big deal? Or like, if this is the biggest, the worst thing that you've ever done. The whole thing was just weird. And of course, it was on TNT, and that's also his new team. And, we'll see when he joins that fully, even though Charles Barkley and everybody got 10-year contracts. So I just thought that was weird. But regardless, then they have the ring ceremony, and it's nice. And yeah, they honored everybody. And Draymond, I didn't hear any boos. Everybody applauded him. And Clay addressed the crowd before the game. And then Steph spoke as well. And then they got their rings, and nice rings and everything. And the new guys, Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman coming back for the first time since April of 2021. It was just a good culmination of everything, and then to start the season. And the game, the Warriors dominated. They're hands down the better team, even though the Lakers have who they have with LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Russell Westbrook. And Patrick Beverley during the summertime said if I was on the Lakers, that team would go to the conference finals. I don't see it right now. I know it's just one game, but they don't look good. And LeBron James even said it himself after the game, saying we lack shooters. And then Russell Westbrook giving some crap about how coming off the bench, gave him a hamstring injury, and that's why he's hurt now. So all in all, I came away from the day being like, I'm glad the Warriors won the game. They got their rings. Draymond, the whole thing seems weird. Hopefully we don't have to hear anything about what his future is, or that he's got problems with Jordan Poole. We'll just leave that stuff behind. And the Lakers are just as or worse than a year ago.
I think the Lakers have a chance to be better than they were last year. Health is always going to be their thing. It's important for most basketball teams, but with their advanced age, especially with LeBron, health is so important for them. LeBron, he played well. I mean, he had some nice dunks and everything like that. Ring ceremonies are always very interesting because I'm always like, God, can they just get through this really quick? Not because I don't want them to celebrate, but I'm always worried about a team coming out really flat after they get their rings.
And, oh no, dude. They go full blown, like, I mean, you know how elaborate the San Francisco
Oh.
Giants opening day ceremonies are. That's what the Warriors are doing now with ring night.
It was insane, and they're posing for the pictures, and it's like an extra 35 minutes built into the program. So, but it was great to watch them come out on fire and play really well. Curry, he's amazing. He's incredible. Yeah. And Klay Thompson, it was nice to see him have some nice shots, some good mid range, and he had a couple threes, and it was just they played really well. And I'm always concerned when they play a healthy Anthony Davis that he's just going to abuse them inside, but they did a decent enough job on him, and threes are better than twos. LeBron is right about the Lakers not having good enough shooting depth. Although Kendrick Nunn was okay, but no, the Warriors. I mean, they're clearly the better team than the Lakers, and the Lakers really hate that, especially with the payroll that they have. But it's not like the Warriors aren't spending money either.
Half a bill, man.
Yeah, half a bill. And so with half a bill of spending and a healthy team, you better be winning that matchup. The Warriors look brilliant for extending Wiggins. He looked great. Poole looked good. I mean, it's nice that Klay Thompson doesn't always have to be the secondary scorer now. We talked about this a little bit last season. Him and Wiggins and Poole now can kind of trade between being the secondary or tertiary scorers. I mean, the Warriors just look so smooth, and they're not even close to their peak yet. I mean, they didn't play like the best game of all time, and I think at the end of the game, it was about a 14-point victory, but that game was not. I mean, they really let the Lakers kind of stat pad there at the end, and that game was not close.
Yeah, fourth quarter, the Lakers kind of got back into it, but it was overall a sloppy game.
Yeah.
The crazy thing to me is it felt like they just won the championship.
It's not that long of a gap, man.
Like it's 4 months. When you compare the offseason to the NBA to football, it's insane. NFL gets 7 months off, and that's why we're all crazy for it when it finally comes back. But when basketball, it's like, we just ended the goddamn season. Like this is insane. So quick turnaround, and obviously they had a long championship run. They went to Tokyo too. Like, I expect them to fall a little flat, but they played well, and it may catch up with them in the next couple of days here, or weeks, whenever they go through a lull. I'm interested in seeing what happens with James Wiseman. I thought he played solid. Clooney deserves this starting spot right now for what he did in the playoffs this past season.
Looney's consistent. You know what you're going to get out of him. Yeah.
But, like I said last podcast, I'm fully expecting next season James Wiseman's the guy. And along with Jordan Poole in that starting lineup. The young guys are playing well. So even Dante DiVincenzo playing well last night. Still some things they got to work on. JaMychal Green shooting from three too. So they're new additions plus the young guys. We'll see what happens with this Warriors season. I fully expect them to be in the mix again, and just to, me and Steven did a whole thing last year. We broke down who we think is going to be 1 through 8. We have to do that whole thing tonight, but just your quick thoughts, Alon, and who you expect to be good teams this year in the NBA Finals when it's all said and done.
I think the Warriors get back there. If it's not the Warriors, I think you're hard pressed to not pick the Lakers. But that's even tough because I know what that team
as the second best team in the West.
No. I shouldn't say it's the second best team in the West, but I just mean like they're another team just because they do have LeBron James, the best player on the planet. I still think he's the best player on the planet. But
I have a hard time believing they're going to be like an 8th seed or something.
They could be, but because of the fact if they have a healthy James and Davis, like that's a very hard 1-2 punch to deal with. The Warriors are really good. I mean, you have the Clippers kind of hanging out.
I think if it's not the Warriors, it's the Clippers.
So the Clippers are kind of the other team. I don't see the Suns being as good as they have in years past.
No, currently they're losing to. By the way, we got the full slate of games tonight, and after the Game 7 fiasco they had a year ago, they are currently down to the Mavericks again in Phoenix.
Oh, it's beautiful. Dallas is a fun team to watch. And the East, I think the West is easier to predict than the East for me personally, because I think the Warriors are just that much better than everybody else in the West. The Clippers could give them a run for their money, but like the East, I don't. Boston will make the playoffs. Brooklyn, probably not good again.
How about Brooklyn tonight getting getting taken down by the Pelicans.
Yeah,
Jeez.
it's I don't get Brooklyn. They should have been the moment they got Kevin Durant a couple of years ago. I was like, well, that team's gonna win. Nope, that hasn't happened. Milwaukee can't count them out, but yeah, I think it's the Warriors and everybody else, and it's kind of nice because as a Warriors fan, it's nice to see them back on top, and it's kind of funny. Last year's championship, even though I'm so happy about it, I was like, oh, that's kind of the start of another mini run.
Yeah.
Here. Like last year's championship, I look at it, I go, yeah, that's a nice championship that maybe you should have got, maybe you shouldn't have got, but now you definitely should get this next one or two at least.
Yeah, I think it's them or the Clippers. I like the Grizzlies. I like, the Suns may take a little backseat this year. I'm interested to see what the Timberwolves do with the addition of Rudy Gobert. I like to see a fully healthy Nuggets team. As far as the East, I think the Sixers are going to be good this season, even though they didn't play well last night against the Celtics. Celtics, we'll see what happens. Losing Ime Udoka, and having the new guy fill in. If they'll be as crisp. I mean, they still got the great players they have. They added Malcolm Brogdon, but we'll see how they do. In the long term in the East. I think the Nets will play well, but also it's just hard to come together as a team when it's obvious the elephant in the room is that Kevin Durant wants to leave, and also Kyrie Irving wants to be a Laker, it sounds like. Speaking of which, it was an awkward moment last night where LeBron James went to talk to Draymond Green, and of course everybody had to talk about that moment. And Andre Iguodala had an interesting gesture on the sideline. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look at it. But in the end, I would expect if I had to pick right now, I think the NBA Finals will probably be Warriors and Bucks. Just the last two teams that won the championships. I like the Bucks getting healthy again with Chris Middleton coming back. And yeah, that's the way I see it going down the season.
I have it pretty much the same way. Like I think it's the Warriors. I like the Bucks a lot with Giannis obviously, and they got some good players like Drew and Middleton, and then George Hill, guys like that. So they're a solid team, and their length can give the Warriors problems. But I think with healthy Wiseman now and Poole having more experience, and just you have reliable veterans off the bench. I love the fact that Jermichael Green and Dante DiVincenzo. That is just like such a great, like those aren't your top guys coming off the bench, but those are great guys to have in those, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, those kinds of spots on your bench there. It's like, oh, cool. We can bring these guys off. They know how to play. So I think the Warriors are just in prime position. If they don't make it to the finals, then it would probably be the Clippers. And that'd be pretty disappointing, I think, if you're a Warriors fan.
Yeah, but I'm also interested to see how Kawhi Leonard looks when he comes back and plays for the first time. And God
knows how long.
Well, the Western Conference Finals against the Nuggets. Oh no, sorry, not the Nuggets. The Suns.
Real quick about the Nuggets, because I like watching the Nuggets play a lot.
Yeah.
I just don't think that they ever have the firepower to go deeper than maybe the second, third-ish round. It's hard because it's so Jokic centric.
It is, and they're kind of like the Jazz to me a little bit, where they're good for they went to the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers in the bubble, but that was a weird deal.
That's fake LA championships.
Exactly. So one of two that season.
City of Champions. They came out with this. Apparently, there was I see it all over a lot of my students' laptops and stuff here at UNLV.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of kids from LA. They have the sticker 2020 City of Champions LA.
Please. It's a terrible year for all of us.
Play a full season, please.
There you go. All right, man. And just to end up real quick, we were given an update earlier. The Astros did win that game, so they take game 1 of the ALCS. So right now we got the NLCS tied up with the Phillies and Padres, and then Astros take game 2. So or game 1, I should say. So if you had to pick right now, who do you think your World Series is going to be?
I had tickets on both the Astros and the Padres before the season started to win their respective leagues. So I got to stick to my guns, Padres, Astros. And I took a lot of heat for the Padres thing, especially when they were falling apart. Astros are just good. Yeah. If they both make it to the World Series,
Melvin, right?
I like the Padres a lot, but I have to go with the Astros. I hate that I'm saying that.
Yeah, either way.
They're so good though.
No, they are good, and I don't put a lot of stock in the stuff that happened a couple years ago. I think every team was doing that, and they just got caught. That's my opinion.
Real quick, there's a really interesting video on YouTube. I don't remember the name of it, but it's about the Astros cheating. Their cheating didn't actually really even help them that much, statistically at least. Their batting analytics are only like it's a negligible amount higher. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, Padres and Astros, I like that a lot. Get ready for maybe one of the least watched World Series in history if it's both those teams. I don't know how many people are going to tune in. I'm going to tune in because I love baseball. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about as many as last year for Astros Braves.
Yeah, about as many as last year for Astros Braves. So it's kind of the same deal. But
Or
you know what?
Astros Nationals, or any of the
I-
non-sexy World Series we get.
You know what it is funny though is if the Astros get past the Yankees, so say they win this ALCS, I mean the Yankees are going to be like, what the hell do we have to do to beat the freaking Astros?
Yeah,
we
I
are
mean,
stacked from top to bottom, and we can't get it done.
It's going to be a weird offseason too to see what happens with Aaron Judge if they don't get the deal done.
Giants fans want him.
Yeah,
That's not happening.
No, and in the end, regardless, he just broke Roger Maris's record. I think
He's
he's
a
going
Yankee
back
for
to
life, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a Yankee for life.
All right, Alon. Next time we do this, it'll be Sunday morning for the Just Your Pregame show, man.
Real quick.
Yes.
The Saints game. What's the pick for that?
Yes, you are correct. Good memory, sir. Let me pick up the spread real quick for Saints Cardinals. Hang on 1 second while I do a little tap dancing here.
It's pretty funny. Last week when I was doing the UNLV game, speaking of spreads, one of my colleagues in the booth said, "Oh, what'd you think of the spread tonight?" I went, I didn't look at it. I was talking about the gambling spread, which I try not to look at for games that I'm calling. And then my spotter went, no. He meant the food and the booth. I went, oh, I didn't look at that either.
That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty good.
That was pretty funny.
All right, so Saints versus the Cardinals. It's in Arizona. You get DeAndre Hopkins back for the Arizona Cardinals, and then you got Jameis Winston back for the Saints, who looks like he's going to start the game tomorrow. Don't know about Michael Thomas. Kind of regretting drafting him now in my fantasy league. He, plays well the first couple of weeks, and then he goes back to being injured again. So we got that game, and the spread currently is the Saints are favored by 3.5, and the over/under is at 34 points.
I like that game to go over.
Okay.
And I like the Cardinals to...
Wait a minute. You got a Thursday night game going over?
Yes, I do. The first one in a while.
I know. Touchdowns will be scored in this game?
There will. Yeah, it's not going to be 12-7. We're not going to talk about the bastard child of NFL scheduling this week. That Commanders Bears game is still haunting me. But and real quick, it's so funny that on the call, this is how much Al Michaels doesn't care about what he says. Sometimes he's just like, "This is just a horrible." Him and Kirk Herbstreit just talking crap about that game because it was bad. But I like Arizona to cover. I like the game to go over, and I like Arizona to win outright. Actually.
Wow. All right. So, sorry, I'm just writing this stuff down from memory. So over under is 34, and the Saints are favored by 3. I'm gonna take the Saints to win, and I'm gonna lay the points with them. And yeah, we need a good Thursday night game, so I'm gonna go over. I'm gonna go over.
It's such a small number, man. 34. It's so. I mean, that's 17 apiece.
I know, but the last few weeks we had 19 points, and then the week before that it was 12-9. Like, yeesh.
Yeah, it's been bad, but I think this is a game. Both these teams, I think they're a fun matchup for each other. Both 2
they got offenses.
Yeah, they got dynamic offenses, or they should. So, and it's a great sign that Jameis Winston's coming back. That should be at least 2 touchdowns right there, right?
For the other team, maybe.
Oh yeah, it could be picks. So we'll see. But I think it's definitely going to go over for sure.
I agree with you, sir. All right, Alon. I will see you Sunday morning, and I will be the tired one because I got to do spotting for Washington Cal that night. So I will be the tired one unless you got a game that night you're doing on Saturday night.
I don't. Right, who are you spotting for?
Washington Radio.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That should be fun.
Yeah, why not?
Who's their radio guys? Real quick, sorry.
First name's Tony. I couldn't tell you his last name. We were just texting a couple of days ago or last week. Don't know his name very well. Sorry, let me pull it up.
Sorry to put you on the spot. Sounds like a blast though.
Yeah, no, it's more money in my pocket, so why not? Tony Castraconi.
Tony Castro, good old Tony Castraconi. There it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Love it.
All right. All right. I'll see you Sunday, my man. And say what we always say at the end of this fine podcast.
Yeah, it's just your opinion, man.
There you go.